Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. My name is Mpho. I've got Tim Delace here with me, my co-host. We've been doing this for over a year and a bit now, and we're getting into the groove. But today's not a very happy day. We always do these test match reviews, these test series reviews, and today we're not happy. This is actually the first day five of the series, but we had 151 overs in this third test match. 2 days were of zero play, largely one due to rain and the other due to the death of Queen Elizabeth. And we find ourselves here sitting, going into probably after probably one of the lowest ever scoring three-match test series in the history of the game, asking ourselves, where to from here? We arrived in England, number one test team in the world. We leave number two test team in the world. Chances are we will still make it back to Lords, but it's probably not going to look pretty for the next year and a bit. And here, Tim's here to talk about it. But let's get your initial thoughts, Tim. Third test match ended, end of a test series that was horrible. And now, how are you feeling after obviously England just got those 33 runs so easily?
Yeah, look, I think after the second test, I knew that the momentum was with England. I knew that they were probably going to be favourites at the Oval, but I knew that we still had a decent chance of coming out here with at least a draw. When the game was reduced to 3 days, even though there was a part of me going, you know what, all the test matches are finished in 3 days, boy. They've all finished in 3 days. I thought this is where the batsmen are going to stand up. They're going to go, you know what, we failed you, but this is the test match, we're going to stand up. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. Hugely disappointed. I think it's the manner in the loss that's disappointing. Not the fact that we lost, because we knew that was a possibility in English conditions. Only really Dean Elgar has got genuine experience in Test match cricket in England, so we knew that was going to be difficult. We knew the batting was going to be difficult, but overall, huge disappointment, because if you, even with that, as have been pointed out many times, it's technical faults that are letting the South African batters down. They let them down. They're getting into positions where they shouldn't be getting into, and as good as the bowling's been good from England, the batting has been. It's not been test level batting. That's the fact of the matter. The bowlers that did everything they could to come away with something from the series. Every single bowler that played in the series has done well. Has tried his best. The figures are good, but outside of nobody really, because Dean started well in the Lords, but then failed for the rest of the series. So you look at the batting and you go, you know you're going to fail. But it's the abject failure. It's how they failed. It's how they have, and it's not as if they've stuck to one situation. They have tried to do various things, study outside the off stump and things. But overall, hugely disappointed. Hugely disappointed, because we know the talent is there. It's not as if they're bad players. The players that are there are not bad players. Twitter will be saying that they're not bad players. They've played very poorly, but they're not bad players.
And I think for me, the question is, do we see these three games in an isolation, or do we see them in the ambient of the entire World Test Championship, where you could say it's three games in isolation, but I'll say to you that these issues have been prevalent for a while. I think we've seen these low-scoring test matches before, test series before. The India one was a case in point. And also New Zealand and also Bangladesh, but obviously that was largely due to Bangladesh's inability to to handle South African conditions. But the cracks were there. There was a time, and I kind of felt like there was a moment where we were going to get found out, and this series could be that moment, largely because, and for me, it stems around two things. Um, Obviously, the batting is in poor form. It's been in poor form for the past 3 years, and we're not going to even longer than that, you could say so. But it's also, as you say, the technical faults, but the inability for the team to play a slightly more positive brand of cricket. South Africa, whenever they've batted, the game has necessarily slowed down unless if the bowlers put them on the front foot. If they were on the front foot and they had a lead, they batted really well. But if they were on the back foot and needed to try and advance the game, the inability for South Africa to advance the game really, really hurt us. And it hurt us in this third test because we bowled them out for a lead of 40. That is not a match-winning lead, even on this pitch. The issue I had was with those technical faults and everything that's been happening, South Africa couldn't necessarily eke out singles and twos and threes and forget about the big booming drive or forget about off stump or try to look busy. And there was a moment this morning watching Ollie Pope bat when he came out to score just a few runs. But he came out with intent, he looked busy, he looked to move around the crease, he looked to set himself, give the bowler a different angle to try and work you out, rather than necessarily the same, we're standing on off or we're standing on middle and we're going to try and try figure out different ways. And I think that's been lacking in this team for a while, the ability for this team to rotate the strike. We saw that in the West Indies last year with South African, with Aiden Markham finding himself in a hole at the top and Dean Alga finding himself not being able to score runs, Keegan Peterson coming in at 3 and 4. And I thought we kind of resolved that issue after India, that they take the confidence from India, go to New Zealand. They didn't do well in New Zealand, and let's be serious. They dominated. They put Bangladesh under the sword, but that was largely the bowling, and they just needed to do the bare minimum. And in a test match where there were only two, in a test series with only two scores above 250 across both teams, it kind of makes me feel angry because that means we could have actually won this thing if they applied themselves. And you let the bowlers down because the bowlers kept you in the game. You can't you can't be in the game in this test series putting up 120, 130, 150, 170. And I thought the minimum this team could ever do was 250, that they knew how to build an innings of 250. But it goes down to a lot of things and a lot of questions, a lot of decisions that were made, and they were hurtful. But I think for me, the one thing it kind of tells me is that this team, the World Test Championship log, is not a true representation of where Test cricket is around the world. And right now, bowlers are on top around the world, and batters are struggling. But that doesn't give us an excuse as South Africans to say, well, even England batted poorly. Yes, they batted horribly wrong, badly. But obviously, there's a function of other things. The Guerrilla UK guys were talking about the pitches. They were talking about all these other things. And I'm sitting there going, but your guys aren't applying themselves. No one in this test series applied themselves. And to a certain extent, it kind of feels like it felt like it was a battle of two relegation threatened teams. They know they're not good. The quality of cricket won't be good, but they're just playing for the sake of playing. And because they're at the bottom end of the table, it's just a competitive and intriguing contest. Outside of the fact that everything else is just, from a batting perspective, was horrible. From a bowling perspective, it was top class. Watching Anderson, Broad, Kagiso, Anrich, Marco Jansen, who was fine, that worked. But I think the one thing for me is South Africa's brains trust let them down. I think there were a lot of questions, a lot of decisions that made. For instance, I think we lost the test series on the morning of Old Trafford. I know you love Simon Harmer, but I think that decision to bat first really just threw the spanner in the works. And to a certain extent, yes, the pattern wasn't necessarily done in terms of bowl first, everyone's struggling. But if you looked at the way in which, and this goes to the video analysis, if you looked at the way in which people got themselves out, because my thing's always been on this tour, and this is the fundamental thing. Crawley and Lees are not good enough for this England side. The England strength is in the middle order. So if I could always, and this has always been, if I could always put England under pressure, having them 30 for 2, why don't take that? Why won't you take that as an opposing captain, then have them, then you be 30 for 2? And so that was my thing throughout the series, was just bowl first or lead with a strong suit, put them under pressure, because you know that England's got these two guys at the top who are probably similar to how South Africa were 2 years ago, when it was just Aiden getting out, Dean not able to find form. So I thought that was an easier one. So we missed it there. We missed the trick by dropping Marco Jansen, and we have to take that on the chin. And then we also missed the trick with that whole middle order situation. Aiden leaves this tour for England with played 3 innings, 36 runs, an average of 12. Rassie van der Dussen, yes, he was injured, 76 runs, an average of 25, third highest average amongst the South Africans. The highest run scorer in this tour is Sardal Avio, 127, with an average of 25 after his 5 innings. Keegan Peterson's next, 122 with an average of 24. Dean Elgar scored 100 and an average of 21. Nobody. Did you know who the highest average person was? Person with the highest average was? It was Marco Jansen. 82 runs, a high score of 48. We walk away from England with 150. That was Sardals at Lords. The rest, it's just nothing. And that tells you that there needs to be a rethink. So my question to you, going into the series, now looking at the series as a whole, do you think it was a missed opportunity?
We should have won this series. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind, with the baseball, with the way that you knew that England were going to play, not for every minute of the series, but for large periods. They were going to play this attacking approach. So you knew what was coming. It wasn't like, well, we're not sure what England to do. You knew exactly what England were going to do. They weren't sure what we were going to do, because most of our guys have never been to England. So while they would have had some video footage, and I'm sure 1 or 2 of them would have seen Ryan Rickleton at Northants, the majority won't have known an awful lot about Saul Ervier, Keegan Peterson, those kinds of players. It is a huge opportunity lost. And I think it was all lost in that middle order. And I said to you when we did a preview podcast, I said to you, I hope the fact that Ryan Rickleton made 0 and 15 in the A game does not persuade Boucher not to pick him. I really hope that is not the case. Now, he looked poor in that particular game in isolation, but he's been averaging 77 on English pitches this season. He has been dominating bowling attacks. Even in the little bits that you saw in this test match, he made errors when he got out, but before he got out, he looked as if he was a test cricketer to me. He looked as if he belonged. He was very sure of where he stood and where he was, and on a pitch that was doing more than in any time of the series. This pitch did more than Lords or Old Trafford. Stuart Broad said it at the post-match. He said this pitch, he was shocked. He said this pitch has done more than any pitch that he's bowled at in England. He was shocked at how it continued to swing, after the 50 overs spell. So Ryan Rickleton, for me, absolutely had to play. And the other thing is, I get the Rassie van der Dussen argument, but you saw his powers are waning. When a good team acts before it's too late, a good team says to the guy, you're probably just about good enough to stay in, but says no, now is the time to change. Again, Kyle Zondo can say to himself, you know what, not great numbers, but I gave a good account of myself. I
He
gave a
did.
good
He
account of
really did.
myself in this
He
test
really
match.
did.
I still wonder about him long term, but in very, very difficult conditions, he gave a really good account of himself. He didn't play risky shots outside the off stump. Didn't play silly drives. He played. He was very much within in what he could do, and he played within his ability. He could be
You
he
could
could be very
look.
unlucky with the dismissal in the second innings. That
Yes.
ball that came back, that could have gone either way. Now, if that's given not out, maybe he bats for another hour, and maybe we get to a lead of 170. Maybe,
No, well,
and
that's
maybe
it. If he doesn't run out of partners,
yeah, and then maybe the bowlers are a little bit more energized. Maybe they've got a little bit more faith in the fact that they can defend that total. You saw when they came out. I'm not blaming them because they've had a terrific series, but you can see they were deflated. The bowlers when they
Tim.
came out yesterday, you could see that they were
Tim,
deflated.
speaking
So
about the
it's an
bowlers,
opportunity lost. Yeah.
speaking about the bowlers and moving to, do you not find that whenever South Africa get bowled out for a cheap total, the bowlers take a while to start? It's KG specifically. He takes a while to get into his groove.
He takes a while to wind up. I mean, fantastic bowler. I get why he was named South Africa's player of the series, but for me it was Marco Jansen. I know he only played 2 test matches, but his 2 test matches that he played, he was phenomenal. He arguably won the game at Lords with his batting at 40, and his average of the ball in 2 test matches was 13. At no time were the South African the England batters comfortable with his bowling. But you're right. KG does take a while to get going. Fantastic bowler. I think he bowled well overall, but there were periods where he wasn't at his best. And because England played this attacking approach, they made it count. They didn't say, well, he's going to bowl 5 overs for 15 and no wickets. They said he's going to bowl 5 overs for 40. And that is crucial. In a low-scoring series when batsmen are struggling, that sort of impetus from England against Rabada was crucial. He came back yesterday in his second and third spells, but the damage was done. The damage was done to him.
I think it's a frustration thing. I think he's just tired of carrying this batting lineup. We just don't want to give them anything to bowl to. And to think about it, in this series, they gave them nothing to bowl to. And to come out with a win, having obviously they scored 326 at Lords, and obviously they started day one. But to keep them in the game in this Test match was a mean feat. Only for the bowlers for the batters to throw it away again. And you could have felt like now the bowling attack kind of felt like actually no, these guys are just disrespectful. That was what went right for South Africa. South Africa now have 5 bowlers they can travel the world with, and I'm including Simon Harmer in this. 6 bowlers they can travel the world with. You've got your 4 seamers, Jansen, Kagiso, Lungi, and Anrich. And then you've also got your 2 spinners in Keshav and Dingy. And to a certain extent, it's going to overshadow it because essentially you want to play 5 of them at any given time. But because of the woes with the batting and the structure of where South Africa are right now, I say maybe it's time to actually go with a 7-4 because you have such a great bowling attack that 4 guys can do it for you on any given day. What do you say about that, Tim? And also, how has the one reason why I say this is because Marco Jansen is going to be a problem for the next 5 years, and he's introduced himself into the world properly. Well, we thought he did against India, but everyone thought he was still a pimple-faced teenager. Now, against England, in England, he showed them that actually he can do it. That Pfeiffer on Sunday, or was it Saturday? I don't know. We got bowled out Sunday. Well, he completed his Pfeiffer on Sunday. Was probably one of the best I've seen him, and it was his first, but he really did step up. But from a bowling perspective, this we can conquer the world with these guys, and we can even conquer Australia with these six.
Yeah, look, I will answer that with a straight stat. You know me, I'm always a 6'5" guy, but I'm willing to change in the short term. Not the long term, I'm willing to change at the short term. Because
that's what we love.
South Africa have played their last 44 test matches without a draw. Without a draw. Not a single draw.
Wait. Hold up. 44.
44.
That goes back. How long does that go back? That's what 5-6 years.
I'm 99% sure of that stat because I looked it up on Twitter. The last 44. I'm sure I'm right. Maybe one of our listeners or watchers can correct me, but I'm sure I'm right. I won't take it. I won't go looking into it just now, but I'm sure I'm right. I think what it is. I think it is. It's 44 without a draw.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's something exceptional like that. So if that tells you something, that tells you that they have to stop that at some stage because you draw test matches. It happens. You have to have the ability to draw test matches. Arguably, this is the test match that should have been drawn. This is the test match where South Africa should have batted until today and said, well, you can bat the last hour, you know, and try and get 300 the last.
So I can confirm with you that the last 40 matches, standing the last 5 years, South Africa have won 22, lost 18, no draws.
There we go. That's 5 years, boys. That's 5 years. That is since pretty much AB de Villiers' retirement.
Yes.
Which is when we've been struggling in the batting. We've been struggling in the batting for 5 years.
And to think there's Hashim Amla in that period as well for the back end of his career, and he struggled.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yes.
So yes, I'm willing to go with the 7-4 in the short term. You go with your 3 pacers and your spinner, and probably in South Africa you could just go with your 4 pacers.
But Tim,
whichever 4 you pick. Long term, and those looking into the crystal ball, but long term, everybody knows that Janssen can be that number 7, potentially. I'm not saying he's going to be. I'm saying potentially he could be the number 7. So you could go back. Let's say 2 years from now, we could go back to a 6-5, and I think that would be better if we did that.
I'd need him to score 100. Unfortunately, I'd need him to show me because he's given us glimpses, right? They're much better glimpses than Vian Mulder, who in this test match was our 7th batter, and that worked out perfectly.
Brilliant.
It was a brilliant idea from the selector. Did Vian even bowl in this test match?
No.
Okay. Anyway.
I'm not sure. He might have bowled. He might have bowled a couple of overs.
Let me check that for you. A couple of overs. Okay. So it's the whole Keshav Maharaj, I'll still need a spinner argument from Johannesburg. Looking at the scorecard quickly before I give you my point. Because, this test match was wild, guys. Vian Mulder. Did he bowl? He didn't bowl in the second innings. He bowled 2 overs for 11 runs in the second innings. In the first innings.
Marvelous.
Yeah. Yes, but that's where South Africa are wanting to go. South Africa's idea is, no, go 6-5, but then, and this is the thing that frustrates me, pick the bowler who bats better rather than the bowler who's going to take you wickets. And it's something that I think even in T20 cricket we do, and ODI cricket we do. So you have a 6, 7, 8, or 7, 8, and 9, who you're just hoping one of them comes through with a partnership with the top order and maybe some other handy runs with the middle order. And in this test series, that's failed dramatically. Well, not dramatically. In the game we won at Lords, that really helped us. because Marco Jansen was Marco Jansen, but he came in at number 6. And then even at Old Trafford, the middle order came, the lower order came through, and that's why Marco Jansen has 82 runs in the highest average of the South Africans. And also, even in this game, that's what happened too. And so I've never been a fan of that. My answer's always been 7-4 split and pick your 4 best bowlers who can take you 20 wickets. Doesn't matter if they can wield the bat. Doesn't matter if they scored 100 in the last game. I do not care. If you can help me take 20 wickets, it helps. And effectively, let's say we did this. And this is what I was advocating for. Aiden Markram is your new test match number 7. I do not care if he opens. I do not care if he's a number 4. Aiden Markram sits as your new test match number 7 in Australia. You can pick whoever you want, Joe Soap and whoever it is at the top. Surely that makes life a little bit easier for the Proteas from a batting perspective.
So he's our Moeen Ali, is he?
He might as well be. Because in the universe of all-rounders in South Africa, it's looking very bad. In the universe of middle-order batters, it's looking very barren. To a certain extent, today I'm sitting on Guerrilla Cricket asking, guys, can somebody call a Rupert and go call David Bedingham and give him some money so he can at least be on the plane to Australia?
Look,
that's how bad it is.
You brought it up. I joke about it slightly because I don't think it's going to happen. But if you can bring somebody back who can't spell their own coach's name, then you could make a persuasion to say we could possibly call David. I'm just saying it's possible. If you can do the one, why can't you do the other?
Yes, but my issue is that okay, fine, let's now try to figure out ways. And that's why I thought this test match, if you want to go with Vian Mulder, you might as well have gone with Aiden Markram.
Yes, absolutely.
100% and let Aiden bat at 7. He doesn't have to even bat at 4. He can bat at 7. And he must sit there. And he must bat at 7. And he must prove to us that he deserves to bat higher up. And that was the only way I would see this. Because I looked at this and I was like, guys, like Vian, like I get like he's done county cricket, he's done everything else. Whenever Vian wears South African clothing, it's bad. It is
as bad. A batsman anyway. As a batsman,
he's not a good enough batsman to come into the side as a top 6 batter. He's not even a good enough bowler to come into as a top 6 bowler. And this pitch had movement. It had movement, but he could obviously had 2 overs. But that tells you what his coach thinks of him. So then, why was he playing? Why? So there was the argument to you, Tim. Kagiso is being battered about. But Dean feels comfortable to still bowl Kagiso, even with Anrich there, as well as Vian Mulder. What does that tell you?
It tells you that somebody didn't want him in the 11. That's the way it looks anyway. That's the way it looks. It looks like I don't want him in the 11. So I'm just going to make a statement and say he's not good enough for my 11. That's what I'm not saying. That's what was transpired. I'm saying that's what it looked like. Because as you rightly point out, in terms of ball movement, this is where somebody like Mulder should have thrived with the ball.
Yes,
this is where this is his thing. He's a swing bowler. That's what he's known to do. He swings the ball. So it is, as you say, as you rightly point out, Rabada bowled more overs than anyone in either side. Only slightly, but still, he bowled more overs than anybody in either side.
Okay, so now let's go back and look at So I think the Lord's Test match was a situation, Tim, where South Africa made all the right decisions, everything from the get-go. They they went in to try and nullify whatever ball it is, because they want to call it Baz ball. You can call it whatever it is. They wanted to nullify this England's love for chasing, so they made them bat first, and it worked. Then obviously things worked out. Obviously, The batting was poor. The pitch did something. Our bowlers were great. Their bowlers were great. South Africa comes out. They scored 326 in that first innings, which you can't fault them for. England batted poorly. Happy days. Sardal gets a 76. He doesn't get onto the honours board, but we're happy. Test number 2, we choose to put them in. We choose to put ourselves in because obviously this beautiful thing that we now went to go with Simon Harmer. In hindsight, Tim, that toss on day 1 at Old Trafford, was that where we lost the series?
No. I stand by what I said last week. Batting was not necessarily the wrong thing to do. I don't believe that for a moment. I do believe we were close to getting into a reasonable position. We were reasonably close to getting in that sort of 250. I do genuinely believe that. If we had been 3 down by lunch, I would say that there was a possibility where we could get into a decent position. However, what I will say, they got a selection wrong. Marco had to play. Not because Lungi bowled badly, not because they're a better bowler, but because of way England played Marco. Because of the way England played Marco in the first test, he had to play instead of Lungi for me. I know that the most lighting will be Harmer shouldn't have played, and that's fine. You can make an argument for that. But I firmly believe that playing the 2 spinners was not the problem. It was not playing Marco. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you could have dropped Markham and played Marco instead of Markham. But whatever.
So my thing's always
not playing Marco was the problem. 100%.
I don't think not playing Marco was the problem. I think it was that toss. And it stems from Simon Harmer. And it stems from that fact that they were like, oh no, this is another way we can beat these guys. And to a certain extent, maybe they felt that this was the more comfortable way of beating these guys. And to a certain extent, I think that's the type of cricket that Mark Boucher wants to play, to be able to bully guys out in the 4th innings. But the lack of ability to adapt to the conditions, to how the first test match, it kind of felt like South Africa were playing a totally different test match in Australia. It's like they played in Lords, that's fine, but now we're coming to Australia and Adelaide, and the pitch is different, but the opponent's still the same. That was my number one thing. And I kind of felt, and that kind of stems to that whole Marco decision, and also the batting first decision. Because my thing was, why? And everyone in South Africa likes to say, "Oh no, why do you like to break the thing that broke? Why do you want to change something that doesn't need fixing?" That bowling attack off the Lords did not need fixing. There's nothing in that bowling attack, in the performance at Lords, that said to me that you needed to change it, even if it was a flat wicket or a flatter wicket. I don't buy the whole no, Simon needed to play. That Simon decision precipitated the decision to bat first and precipitated the decision for us to throw away our advantage in this test series. And the fact that they couldn't even see, and it's like they didn't watch the first test again. They had like 7 days between the first test. They actually even went to go play golf, see family, and whatever it is. Why didn't anybody go and review the bloody first test? You actually didn't even need to review the first test. You just needed to review the first 2 hours of the test. They would have told you everything you needed to know. Everything you needed to know about how England approached the game, which means that they are showing you their technical deficiencies because they want to be positive, which is fine. And that's what you give up in Test cricket. If you want to be a little bit more positive, you're going to be a little bit more loose, and you find yourself in trouble at times. And that's okay. And that's where they want to live. So if they want to play that game, why don't you go with the bowling attack that does things? So all you were telling me about the first test was, no, the pitch at Lords was the reason why you won. That's essentially what you told me. You didn't give account or you didn't give account of Marco's bowling performance. You didn't give account of what Kagiso did. You just effectively said, no, screw the bowlers, screw the quicks. It was a pitch issue. And for me, and I've always said this about this team in the Boucher era. This team sometimes, to me, feels like they don't know how to plan for games. Like they arrive on the day and they hope that from a talent perspective, they are better than the other team. And they arrived in this test series in India. Their talents were not better than India. From a bowling perspective, they were, but India was very close. But India were performing very badly. And that's why we won that India series. It wasn't because South Africa played better. Yes, they batted better, but it was because India actually batted themselves out of both test matches. In this test series, England are the better side. And you come here and you want to weaken your strength, and then Tim comes and tells me, no, that's not where we. No, Tim, that is where we lost that test series. It was that selection decision on the night before when all of a sudden somebody had a brainwave. I don't know who that is. Whoever that is must get fired because from a situation of. Because here's two things, right? Here's two things. We're going to a test match. They're playing this bad, right? England.
I'll come back with this. Don't worry.
We know England want to chase, right? We know that's their strength. They've won I don't know how many test matches already this year chasing. Why? On God's green earth. Okay, let me not say Simon, right? Even if you had Simon Harmer, why on God's green earth would you still want to bat first? Why? But you literally were like, oh no, we want to test ourselves against your strength. Like, really? Who are we? We're top of the log in World Test Championship, but we're not that great.
I'll tell you why. And look, it's all subjective now. But the series is over and everything. What they wanted to do, and they wanted to do actually for large periods of the series, is they wanted to go. We bat and we bat long. We bat slow, but we bat long, and we bat you out of the game. We 1-0 up. We draw that second test. We're on the plane to Lords. It's done. It's sealed. Thanks for coming. I'll revert back to what many people had actually said on the morning of that, including not just Vernon Philander, but Vernon Philander did say, "Bowl. It's a bowl first pitch. It's a dusty. No, not bowl. Not bowl." Play two spinners, not bowl, because we bat first, play two spinners. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to bat England out of the game. They picked their 11 precisely on that, on the fact that Elgar was going to bat for long periods because he had been in form coming into the series, Rutherford Dawson was well the same, to play that sort of hard-fought, nuggety innings to just bat England out of that game, to bat until they backed themselves, and look, it backfired, so it's easy to criticise. But they said, if we are 3 down by lunch, it's going to be easy.
You lost the game!
And it was easy. It was easy. Once they were 6 down, all of a sudden, the tail batted as if the pitch was easy, because the pitch was easy. The pitch was easy to play on. But because they'd lost 6 wickets, the damage was done. It didn't matter that the fact that the tail actually got, 70 runs or whatever they got. The damage was done. The point was, they were saying, if we are 3 down, we can then get to 300. We back ourselves to get to 300.
Who was going to score those runs? Where was the person to ask who's going to score those runs to get you to 300? Who was going to score those runs?
They backed the fact that Sarvel was in form. He just made 73 at Lords.
But if we're 3 down, one of Sarvel and Dina out.
Yeah, I'm talking about the toss. At the toss, they did not go, we are going to be 50 for 6, therefore we must bat first. They didn't do that. If they had known that, then they wouldn't have batted first. You can't go, well, because it was 50 for 6, or whatever it was, we will now,
Tim,
because we know what's going to happen, we're not going to bowl.
They backed themselves. Tim, you're saying that they backed themselves that if they were 3 down at lunchtime, that they could still get to 300. But this is a
Yes.
team that struggled to get to 300 previously, unless if they were on the front foot. And so my question to you
Yes.
was, if we were 3 down, how are we going to get to 300, knowing that one of or two of Sado, Dean, and KP would have been back in the hut at that point in time, if
Yes.
not all three?
Now, yeah. But you can't go into a side going, well, Markham's out of form, Rossi's out of form, Kyle Reina's out of form. You know, he made 100 at the beginning of the year, but since then he's struggled. You can't go into it like that. They trusted their individuals in the same way that Ben Stokes has trusted his individuals who were under fire. The difference was Ben Stokes' charges responded. Even Zach Crawley, who's been totally awful, responded. He responded. The point is, the South African batters did not back Dean Elgar's backing. Dean Elgar has backed these players, rightly or wrongly. I think wrongly. I think wrongly. I think he's picked certain players he shouldn't have picked. We've gone around that. But he said to them, "I back you. Now go out and score those runs." That is, yeah.
If Kaya and Ryan played in that second test, would they still have backed them? Because my thing is,
Kaya,
sometimes,
probably not.
Close my point. Let me close my point. One thing is, obviously Jurgen Klopp, clump of injuries, right? He's not going to go in there and say, no, I'm going to go play an attacking brand of what he has, and it's backfired. But I want to play an attacking brand of football and have everybody up there, not accounting for what his team's liabilities are. You know, my one problem with that thinking of we need to back them, it kind of is a hubris. There's a situation of, no, we're backing them, they're going to come good. This is a test match where they come good. Whereas throughout sport around the world, coaches and captains know where their teams are weak. Anybody and their aunt could have told you that middle order is weak. So I just disagreed to say, guys, we knew what we had. And if that's the case where he was backing them, then that's still a bad decision. Why not then say, let's give you confidence by allowing the bowlers to do the job for you. And then when you're batting, when the pitch is a little bit flatter at the end of day one or beginning of day two, we back you to make hay while the sun shines. Why wasn't that the idea?
Because the assumption, again, we will never know, because the assumption was we need the spinners to come into 4 on days 4 and 5. We don't want Harmer bowling on day 2, because then it's pointless. That's when you want to bat.
Harmer can bowl in any conditions. We watched that against Bangladesh. Him and Keshav obliterated Bangladesh in day 1 and day 2. I like even that argument. I sit there going, I get it, I understand it. We want the test match to go to day 5, but somebody in there should have said, Oaks, we've never had test matches go to day 5 or day 4 or whatever it is. And also pull out that stat you pulled out from Quick Stats Guru to say that the last 44 test matches have never ended in a draw. So still, I'm like, guys, where's the other side? Who's giving us the other side? I don't have a problem with Simon Harmer playing. I really don't. It's this idea of we needed him for the 4th innings. Screw that. If everybody believes Simon's the greatest off spinner in the history of off spinnerdom, then he can bowl on day 1. Then he can bowl on day 2 with a bouncier ball, with whatever it is. My point is, nobody checked the decision and questioned as to why we are doing this, when A, we know our batsmen are horrible, and B, we know that we've got this secret weapon in our bowling attack that can win us any game. But we went, oh no, we want Simon to come through. It's kind of as though they wanted Simon to be They're like, no, we've got this star student. They're like, no, you've seen our 11, but we've got this other dude. So let's do everything to make this one guy, one man out of 11, come to the fore on day 4. But the last test match we finished within 2 and a bit. The previous test matches against Bangladesh we finished in day 3, in 3 days. New Zealand, we never even went to day 4. India, we never even went. Okay, India, we went to day 5 at Cape Town, but that was nice. Even that pitch was flat, but we didn't play 2 spinners. So where's that person who's saying, guys, why are we trying to outthink the room? Why are we trying to we tried to be smart and we got caught and we lost the test series because we were trying to be smart. And it's not even me hating on Simon Harmer. I know I didn't want him there, but actually in hindsight, when you look at it, you're like, actually the Oak could have played. We've got 6 bowlers, as we spoke earlier, who are world class. You can even go with spin twins anywhere in the world. Even in Australia, we can go with spin twins. We can play with the spin twins at Perth because they're that good. So I fail to understand. And I think that's where we lost it. That is where we lost it. And yeah, look, we'll get to the World Test Championship final, and that's the problem. But I think for me, this is what the Boucher tenure has always been. We're relying on talent more than tactics to win games. And when we try, and to a certain extent, when he tries to be clever and come up with tactics, they blow up in his face in the most, because we didn't even lose the game. It wasn't a tight game. It's not like we were in the game. We were out of the game from ball 1. That tells you that, guys, your tactics were horrible. But anyway, Tim, final thing, Australia. We're going to Australia. What do you do?
For me, it's really simple. It's really, really simple, and it's gonna. Actually, no, it's not gonna surprise people. It's not. It's really not. So Malcolm doesn't go, and Rassie doesn't go. Even if Rassie is fit, Malcolm and Rassie do not go. You stick with Sandor and Rickleton for now. They have to be given a genuine run. Obviously, Performer comes in, so Performer will probably come in for Sandor in the 11, but Sandor is still there in the squad for me. And
do you take
Janneman Malan
okay, cool.
Janneman Malan comes into the squad. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think he will be able to play
David Bedingham.
I think, look, if you can get him on the phone, I think you phone him. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's about a 5% chance of it happening. I think that door was shut on both sides. I think Cricket South Africa has decided to go elsewhere, and David Bedingham has decided to qualify for England. I think that door is closed. But if it is slightly ajar, I get on the phone and I go, listen, what do you think? We need a middle order batsman. What are your thoughts? 4-day series starts in October. I think you can fit in I think it's at least one game before the 4-day series, before the tour of Australia. So he and Janneman Malan can play a game, get some kind of form, play 2 innings before that test series, just to get the feel of it. So yeah, for me, it's Janneman Malan comes in, Bedingham comes in if he can, and Markham and Rassie are out.
Your top 7 for the Gabba, because we both agreed we're going with 7 batters. Your top 7 for the Gabba.
So obviously, Algar and Irvia stay. They average 44 together in 13 partnerships. 6 of them have gone over 50, so they stay. There's no doubt about it. Keegan Peterson stays, but it's time he scores runs now. I know he scored runs against India. I know that, but his average still not as good as it should be. The talent is there, so Keegan Peterson is there. Then then I think is where it gets a little bit. You can make movements, but let's say Janneman at 4, Performer 5, and Petty at 6 if he's there, and Card at 7.
So Ryan sits out.
Let me just
This
think.
is what I'll make you. This is what I'll do for you. Ryan becomes our new test keeper at 7.
Then yes, I would. Again, that's a little bit harsh on Kyle, but I do wonder. I do wonder if he's a long-term solution. I do wonder if he's the long-term solution. Again, I think that would be better. I think yes, indeed. So Ryan is.
So my 7 is the 2, Dean and Saro, KP at 3, Timber at 4. I don't like. Then it's Ryan at 5. If Beddingham's available, if David Beddingham's available, he comes in at 6. If not, I still feel like I need to give Kai Zondo an opportunity, and so he'll be there at 6. And then 7, I'm currently, like, if I'm in South Africa right now and I'm a wicketkeeper batter, best believe I'm in the nets batting my life away. But I need a number 7 wicketkeeper. We don't have that right now, wicketkeeper batter. So Kyle will go to Australia and he'll probably start. Oh Lord. But that's how I would do it. If Kyle can't do it, I would then, and I don't want to do this to Ryan Rickleton, I'd give the gloves to Ryan, give him a year in the side, and see if Ryan can give me an average of about 30 for that year. I want a lot of half centuries from Ryan, but I don't know what keeping will do to him, and that's my biggest worry. But that's my thing. And then Nicky van der Berg is not in contention anymore. I'd have been phoning him right now.
His stats are incredible. Stats-wise, he should be there.
But so I'm really worried about that. Quickly, Tim, from a bowling perspective, your 4 bowlers, now you're going with 4. I'm assuming Keshav is still there. And then you go, your 3 quicks. Is it Marco, Anrich, and KG?
Yes. Yeah.
Lungi's only taken 2 wickets in the series at an average of 44. I get the bulk. KG KG took a lot of overs from Anrich and Thingy. Yeah. But Lungi was...
And Lungi bowled better than those figures suggest. As much as I would have dropped him for the second test, he did bowl better than those figures suggest. That's a little unfair.
Yes, and to a certain extent, he bowled really well with KG as a tandem at opening the bowling. I think for me, it's a toss-up between Anrich and Lungi, depending on what you want. Because Marcus still gives you that threat that Anrich no longer was supposed to give you. So, to a certain extent, I'm sitting there going, actually, do I want an opening bowler? Because if KG and Lungi can open and Marco comes in as a first change, you elongate the pressure that the batsman will feel, because obviously batters want to go to the first change. And so if you're at KG and Lungi keeping it tight, you then got Marco coming in as first change. You have a bit of it's a nice enough balance. That's what I'm thinking. But look, that's our pretty early 11 for Australia. We'll be back for Australia. Final words, Tim, before we close off.
Overall disappointment. Really, it's got to be an overall disappointment from the tour. Lots for Mark Boucher to think about now. I don't think the status quo can continue. Whatever he changes he makes, I don't think that can continue. Also, just quickly, if the batting coach is telling you that there's technical faults 12 months after he's been at the job,
he needs to
question marks.
Yes. Look, I think for me, horrible winter of cricket. Our autumn was great. We did well there. But winter, it was horrible. We could have secured a spot in the World Test Championship final with this Test series win, but we did not. And that, for me, It goes down to tactics, it goes down to application, and it goes down to selection and trusting the same set of batters. If you look at England, Brendan McCullum changed the face of English cricket. He told players that this is what he wanted. Maybe that's where we need to go to. Maybe that's not saying we need to go there, but maybe a change in thinking, a change in style, or a change in just mentality to say this is the type of cricketers we want. I think we have that at the top of the order, but from 3 until 7, it's just a blank canvas. We've got that in the bowling attack, but that's where we lose it. 3 until 7, we lost a lot of games in that. And in those 40 games, Tim, South Africa's actually won 22 and lost 18. So it hasn't been all that bad. Even in this World Test Championship, it hasn't been all that bad. It's just, I don't want to come back to Lords next year, and chances are we are, and have the same set of circumstances, because boy, I want to give the world a show, and I don't want to see what happened. I don't want what happened in the past, I don't know how, 30 days to occur. So, Tim, thank you very much. We'll be back again next week. We've got the SA T20 XXX, whatever it is, draft.
And we've got a guest.
We've got a guest next
week as well.
As we lead up to the start of the domestic season. So remember, please do follow us, like us, and do all those social media things you need to. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also tweet us, and also support us on Patreon if you can. Outside of that, thank you very much, Tim. It's been a horrible winter of cricket, so we're signing out of this UK tour, looking to the T20 World Cup, hoping for better cricket. Outside of that, goodbye, good night, and le sale.